In today's video, I'm going to give you 10 things that you need to know to plan for your trip to Korea. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Empathetic Wanderers. My name is Jeff, and on this channel I give you ways to deepen your travel experience, hopefully make otherwise inaccessible situations a bit more accessible, primarily in Korea and Japan. If you've seen my videos before, you know that for the first couple months of the year, I was in Korea, and currently I live in Japan. So if you like content on Korea, if you like content on Japan, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make sure to hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of the content that I'm putting out every single week. In today's video, I'm just going to give you 10 things that I think that you need to know when you're planning your trip to Korea. So let's get to the video. Alright, so the first one I'm just going to talk about is one that I've talked about in past videos, but if you haven't seen those, then you should know that in South Korea, Google Maps does not work. So you can access the app, but none of the businesses are connected to it, and if you like zoom in, it doesn't really work. And the reason for that is they have their own app, and I believe Google Maps has been defined as a national security threat for some reason by the South Korean government. So they have their own application called Naver, and I'll put a little photo of it here. It's super easy. You can use it in English. I would imagine you can use it in different languages other than English or Korean, but it's very easy. It's exact, so it'll give you the exact time that a bus leaves or a train leaves, but just something important to know, as not only is that going to be helpful for you to get around, but also South Koreans use that mostly, so it's going to be easier for them to show you if you're going to show them that app rather than Google Maps, because they won't be using it. All right, the second one that I would say, and this is obviously something that you should do in any place that you travel, is just kind of be aware a little bit of the etiquette in the country that you're in. And in this regard, be aware of the etiquette with Korea. So that's like little things like people don't really talk on the subway. They certainly talk on their phones. There's a certain side of the escalator that everyone stands on. And then there's other things like, to show respect to elders, you can, you don't need to bow, but nodding and bowing a little bit is a sign of respect, especially when you are interacting with someone far older than you, or that you know that they're older than you. There are other things like you're always supposed to pour for the person at the table with you, and also older people will often pay for the younger person at dinner. So just kind of read up on some of the parts of etiquette in the culture, because it really helps, I think, not only did they respect that you're learning about their culture, but you also understand parts of your own travel experience. So the next thing that I would just say is, I feel like in a lot of these countries, people often want to go to the big cities, right? Like Seoul, Busan, maybe Daegu, but really try and get outside of the big cities, specifically Seoul. There are so many places that you can go. There's Jeonju in the south near Busan. There's Gyeongju in the south in Busan. There's I went to Sokcho. If you haven't seen this video on Seoul, check it out. It's a really beautiful beach town on the east coast. It's a couple hours from Seoul. There's a lot of places. Daegu is north of Busan, but south of Seoul. And because the country is so small and there's so much great public transportation, it's really easy and it's affordable, and it doesn't take that long to get to. So there are some day trips that you can do, so you don't even have to get accommodations in other cities. You can just go, it's an hour bus ride, and it really is a lot easier than at least I used to think it was going to be. So definitely check out other places. A lot of different cities have different cuisines that they're like known for, and you just don't want to miss out on that kind of stuff. The next one would just be aware of the season. I am from Southern California where we don't really have seasons, and the seasons can be intense in Korea. I was there during the winter time and it was so cold. I think it was abnormally cold, but just make sure that, especially if you're going at a time where it could potentially be cold, that you have access to clothes that you could wear in those scenarios. So, if I'm traveling in like fall or spring, and certainly if I'm traveling in the winter time, I just always bring a heavy jacket, because unless it's like September or June or May, like there's a chance that it could get cold, and I don't want to be caught off guard. So definitely plan for the seasons and do your like research, and especially if you're going to be traveling to different parts of South Korea. Like when I was traveling in Busan it was really mild, but because it was like right by the water. But then when I went to Gyeongju and I was doing like hiking and stuff like that, I was going up in elevation, and so it got really cold. So just be aware of that. All right, the next one is just gonna be for my other, well, I know it's not just American, but speaking to my American friends, the converter, the outlets in Korea are different. So they use 220 volts, and it's like a little prong. We have like the square two-pronged plugs, and they have like the cylindrical two-pronged plugs. So just make sure that you have a converter. Obviously you can get one at the airport, but it's going to be really expensive. So this one is not really specific to Korea. This is just like a personal travel tip I have for myself, is just don't pack too much. Like I always used to pack like this big bag, and I would always use like 10% of it, because the reality is my dream of like how I imagine my trip is me like changing all the time and like always looking great. But the reality is like I'm tired, and like, just did like all this tourism, and I just want to be comfortable, or I just want to wear what I know is going to like be functional. And so I've really like cut down on what I actually bring when I travel. And also what makes it a lot nicer too is that when you get to the airport, if you're connecting, you don't need to recheck anything or make sure they worry that it's gonna not get to your destination. You just always have your stuff with you. And then also like when you get to cities like Seoul, like there's always escalators, but somehow I always end up not making it to the escalator. Somehow I always make it only to stairs, and that becomes a bit of an issue. So when you have less, it's just easier to get around. So yeah, just definitely like don't pack too much, and have room to put stuff in, And then definitely try out Airbnb. If you haven't seen my videos from, I guess I haven't posted my Busan Airbnb yet, but if you haven't seen my Seoul Airbnb, I'll put a link of it here. Airbnbs in Seoul are great, and they give you a really nice way to have like your own space. They're a lot cheaper than hotels. Hostels are also great. When I first started traveling to Korea, I always stayed at hostels, and they were always perfect. They, you have less space, and you're usually staying in the same room as someone you don't know, but I never ever had any problems, and it cuts down on cost so much. And also when you stay at a hostel, you meet a bunch of people. So if you're traveling alone, like I often travel alone, it's a really nice way to be able to meet a couple people who are looking to do often the same things that you're looking to do, be it through eating or what have you. And then make sure that when you do get that Airbnb, or you do get that hostel, or wherever your accommodation is, that you have the accommodation's address on your phone or on a piece of paper in Korean. So especially if you're using taxis, but even if you're just taking the metro and you just need to ask someone, people are probably not going to be able to read your Romanized version of Korean. So you definitely want to have the Korean, you know, you can just copy and paste it on any website, you know, Hostel World or an Airbnb. Like, there's always a way to get the Korean address, but definitely taxi drivers are not going to be able to read the Romanized version. So you're going to want to have that available if you ever do get lost. And the next part would just be, if you do get lost, make sure that you know where Starbucks is. It sounds weird, but whenever I travel anywhere, I figure out where I am going to be like landing. So whether that be in the airport or the station that I'm getting off at from the airport, like metro or something like that, that I know where the Starbucks is near that, because Starbucks or McDonald's usually means that there is Wi-Fi. And if you have Wi-Fi, then you can figure out, you know, what's going on and where you might need to go. It just gets a lot more complicated. When I arrived in Seoul, I took a bus and I got off at the wrong stop, and there was no Wi-Fi, and it turns out I had gone like the opposite direction, and because there was no Wi-Fi, it made it really difficult. I ended up finding my way, but it took a really long time. So knowing where a place that you can get free Wi-Fi is super, super helpful. And then one of the last ones is just going to be book things in advance. There's a lot of things to do, whether that be the DMZ or that be going to a show in Seoul. Make sure you book those things in advance, because oftentimes I used to think like, oh, there's always going to be a way for me to get this done, or there's always going to be availability, and the reality is there isn't. And so that definitely helps. Almost all of those places have ways to book these things online. I know the DMZ specifically, I think you have to have a reservation. You definitely have to have a reservation, but any of these places, just a couple weeks before. I mean, everyone knows they're going to go to Korea a couple weeks in advance, so make sure that you get that stuff planned before you go. Alright, so that wraps up the things to do when planning to go to Korea. These are just some things that I have learned along the way as I've gone to Korea. So I hope you found that helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments if you've been to Korea or if you're going and what you're hoping to do. I really hope that you found this stuff useful. These are things that have helped me on my travels in Korea. If you want more content like this, let me know. If you like Korea content, if you like Japan content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make sure to hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of the content that I'm putting out. I'll go ahead and link my South Korea playlist. Check out the other videos that I've got posting. From there, I'm going to be posting a little bit more on South Korea for the next couple weeks, and then I'll be moving on to my Japan content. So I really appreciate anyone that's watching. Let's just keep being empathetic. Let's keep wandering. Just keep spreading positivity. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye.